Hey guys, Mandy here. I have done this video a couple times. There's two topics that I wanted to make videos on. One is my Ancestry DNA results and my experience with that, and then premature ovarian failure, which is something that I have that I'll be making a video on later on with my experiences, how I was diagnosed, things like that, but just kind of like the backstory with it. But for this video, we're going to do the Ancestry one. And I'm not wearing makeup just in case I cry. I don't know my biological father. I was extremely fortunate that my mom, she moved down here to Florida, which put my whole life in motion, I would think. Like, it's just insane to me the things that happened to her that affected my life so greatly that were good. I don't know how things would have been if we stayed up in Idaho, but my mom moved down here and with a friend's aunt. That friend's aunt, I actually call her grandma to this day. She kind of took us in and helped us out, and I'm very fortunate for her. She's been family when we were so far away from family, and we've done everything with them, and they're awesome people. Even extended out, I spent time with her daughter and her kids and you know, all this stuff. So we had a very big extended family once we moved down here. And my neighbor, I was best friends with a little girl growing up. We had a fantastic childhood. We did everything together, and her father went to high school with a gentleman who was a merchant seaman, and he introduced him to my mom, and they hit it off, and that's how my sister Jessie was made. But they got married, and he adopted me, and he's been my father ever since. So I was very fortunate, not knowing my biological father, to have such a father figure come into my life that early. And he has been a wonderful man. He's done everything for me, from get me a car when I was old enough to drive. I've never been treated any differently than anybody else. He even got me my first camera when I was 16, one of the two, because I got a digital camera back when it was like a 4 megapixel HP. But anybody who knows me knows that that was the start to a whole nother journey with photography once I got the camera. Actually, there's one photo that I took that started that journey, but I'm totally distracting myself from like what I wanted to talk about on here, and I need to stop that because I wanted to share my story so that others may be inspired to possibly do an Ancestry DNA test for those looking for a biological parent. So what I did is I did the DNA test. My sister did one a year before, my half sister Jessie, and so I was able to eliminate the like family members that didn't line up with hers, which is awesome that they give you that option that you can see shared family members with somebody that you link DNA with, which was great. It was a humongous help. I was able to start with the third cousins, find a common grandparent with all the third cousins that didn't line up with her, and kind of go from there and kind of get an idea. Now, backstory is my biological father was a musician named Dave Fulton, who traveled around with a group of friends that my mom met that were in a band. Like, he came up with the band. He was friends with somebody in the band or something, and he would play a couple shows here and there, just, you know, little gigs, little like open mic nights kind of thing. But he liked playing the guitar, and he liked singing a lot. Which is kind of funny because my entire childhood, I think, revolved around singing, and anybody who lived in our neighborhood could hear me singing Jesus Loves Me as loud as I could on my swing set every single time we swung together, me and Courtney. Singing was always a big part of my life, and I think knowing that he was a musician kind of inspired me to kind of like listen to music sometimes a little bit more, just to feel like I have some kind of connection in some way, shape, or form with that. But anyway, I did the DNA test, and I was able to start. I didn't link up with anybody as a first cousin or anybody as even a second cousin or anybody that was a sibling or aunt, uncle, any of that stuff. So I ended up doing my own research online. I worked the nights, and I was bored to death because my job was to sit there and just answer phones if it rang. There were many nights that it did not ring. So I sat there watching Netflix all the time. So I stopped watching Netflix and started doing my research. And within 2 weeks, I found quite a few people that I had written, and I was in communication with a few people in regards to, do you know a Dave Fulton? Which a lot of people, the third cousins that I contacted, everybody, nobody had even heard of him. And then when I found out his backstory. I'll get to that in a moment. But it made sense that nobody had heard of him because of, I guess, how he was made. From what I understood, when I did find the link that I was looking for, it turned out that I think it was something like he was a black sheep of the family. Like his mom he was a result of an affair or something. So it just kind of, nobody really knew about that. But anywho, I ended up even finding the woman that he was married to when my mom and him met. And so I wrote her, but she hasn't written me back. It's hard to write people on Facebook because you can send them a message, but unless they check their message request or even know to check their message request, there's no way that they don't even get notifications for it. But I was able to find her. I wrote her. She hasn't even read it yet. I just checked it again the other day. But this was about last year. This was about a year ago. I really started getting into trying to find my family and everything. And through my research, I found quite a few people that said, you may know this person. So what I would do is I would take a name and I would go on Facebook and I'd look it up. Well, I found this one person that had persons that they may know. There were 3 different David Fultons that I was kind of looking at throughout the country. But there was one that stood out because his parents, his mother actually popped up on a tree, a family tree. So I went more hardcore, I guess, on that like information that I had than I did anything else. So when I found her name on a family tree, I just started like, Dave Fulton. And I actually contacted Boise, Idaho, which is where they met, because I knew that there was an arrest record. Turns out there was only one David Fulton that had an arrest record, and his middle name was David, not his first name. So that helped open up a whole nother thing. His name was Joseph David Fulton. So I was able to Google him, and that's when more names popped up, and one name in particular popped up, and her name popped up exactly as it is on Facebook. So when I went on Facebook and I found out, I was like, oh my gosh, this must be the lady. I mean, who else has their first name, maiden name, and their married name on there? So I sat there and I contacted her, but of course she has message requests that it goes to, so she probably didn't hear it or see it, hear it. She probably didn't see it. So I ended up sending her a message through her business page that she had set up for her business that she owns. And all I said on the business one was, hey, this person, I think works there and I'm trying to contact them, and all my message said on her page was something along the lines of, I'm looking for information on somebody by the name of Joseph David Fulton. Your name popped up. I was just curious if you did know somebody by that name, blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm sitting in line at my daughter's school, and I'm getting ready to get her in the car. And she wrote me back and she's like, I do know David Fulton. I was like, oh, awesome. She must be like a cousin, second cousin, something like that. And so we started talking for a minute. She goes, Joseph David Fulton is my father. Why do you ask? It's very hard to explain to a 5-year-old why you're crying in the car and why you're shaking so bad. I've never been like so scared that I'm shaking, because I heard that he was married with kids when my mom met him, and all I could think to myself is, I just ruined what possibly could be a happy family if they never knew that I was a result of an affair. But she and I talked, and it turns out she didn't know very much information about him as well, because he left when she was a baby, and they are older than me. Apparently he started having kids when he was 17 years old. They are significantly older, between 10 and 15 years older than me. So we started talking, and I was like, it's a long shot. This is all the information I have. It all lines up to you guys, but I could be on a totally wrong, scale here. This is all my own research that I've done. And I asked her if I could send her an Ancestry DNA test. And I was already on Ancestry DNA. My sister was already on Ancestry DNA. And I figured, worst case scenario, if she doesn't pop up on anything, then for the inconvenience of me making this poor woman think that I was, a result of her father and everything like that, that I would be giving her something from me, like the Ancestry DNA test for herself. So I ended up sending her the Ancestry DNA test. And on Christmas Eve, I got a phone call that confirmed from her that we were sisters. We were half sisters. And it's pretty cool because she and I, very friendly people. And so, it, it's pretty awesome. I found, from everything that I know, he has passed away. He's actually buried where they live, in their area because, he traveled around a lot and didn't have any family to take care of him when he passed away. And, she met him when she was a teenager. Or if I have the stories right, I might be totally off on this too, but, she met him when she was real young. And then, you know, they kind of kept in touch here and there, I guess, throughout the time. But yeah, I found, I have, one of the brothers took ordered an Ancestry DNA test and did one himself, and he linked up to me as well. So, I went from having a very small family to a bloodline family to knowing a small amount to knowing quite a few bit more. And I have 2 brothers and a sister that I know of. We even joked around saying there's probably more out there because there's even a gap between when he left them to when he met my mother, about a 9-year gap, 8-9-year gap. So we toyed with the idea that there could possibly be more. My mom knew that he had 2 boys. She doesn't remember if he said anything about a daughter, but that was also 30-something years ago. So there's no telling, you know, what they talked about if she remembered and all that. So, it's just, it's pretty cool. And, we're actually going to meet them. We've been trying for a few months now to figure out how to go. We're in Florida, they're in Tennessee. So, they've lived there their whole life. I've lived here my whole life. So, we are, we're going to meet them tomorrow night. And, it's really cool that, they're very friendly, extremely friendly. And, they have big hearts, and they're such nice people. And it's like, I was so scared that I was going to ruin somebody's life if I did happen to find him. And, I didn't find him. Well, I mean, I didn't find him in time. He died in 2010, which was kind of hard to hear because we thought my mom had tried to get, child support and had been told by the authorities that more likely he had passed away because he hadn't filed taxes in years. And, so it turns out that that's not it. He was a wanderer. He would go from state to state, got married a few more times. From what Stephanie had told me, he lived in a hotel for a little bit, or maybe even hotels for a little bit. He just kind of wandered all over and, kind of did odd jobs here and there, I guess, to make money. But yeah, so, that's my Ancestry DNA story. And, I do recommend, if you're looking for a parent or a sibling or a family member in particular, Ancestry DNA was a huge help. If it wasn't for me doing my Ancestry DNA test, I wouldn't have found the pieces to put the puzzle together, so to say. And I'm really grateful for that because my whole life, especially when I was a kid, I always felt unwanted or unneeded sometimes. Just like, how could somebody not want to know me or be a part of my life? And could be he didn't even know I existed at all. You know, he could have thought, there were a lot of rumors going around from everybody that I talked to at the time that another woman had got pregnant at the same time. So this married man was going off and sleeping around with different women, lying to his wife, lying to some of the women that he was seeing, and he got my mom pregnant. There was a rumor going around he got somebody else pregnant. So it could be he thought the whole thing was made up, that it was just a bunch of drama that was started, and he may not have even know I existed his whole life, because I found out he died in 2010, and even his kids, Stephanie had asked them, you know, do we have any other siblings? And he had said no. So, but then again, he could have lied about it. So there's no telling. I'm actually pretty excited because this time tomorrow I'm going to be driving to Tennessee, and I'm going to be meeting my siblings. That's pretty freaking cool. it's pretty cool. I hope they're ready for this mess because I did not put on makeup because I was like, I'm gonna totally bawl my eyes out. I don't. Tomorrow may be different. I've been talking to 2 of them for months now, and I haven't reached out to the third. I don't want to impose myself on anybody. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to push yourself and be like, I'm your sister, I'm your sister, I'm your sister. Half sister, half sister. Come on, come on, come on. You got another one. I definitely don't want to do that to anybody. But to like meet people that, they're so nice and they're so down to earth and they're so nice about this, and they're excited like I am. Like, I was trying not to, like, I'm excited, I'm nervous. I'm more nervous about the fact that I have always, my entire life, no matter what, I said I want to meet him, whether he's alive or dead, and I want to either be face to face with him or face to face with his grave. And this next week, it's gonna happen, and it's weird. It's like a whole lifetime of wondering, and like I'm gonna have answers. I have a lot of answers right now. I even have a photo. I didn't know what he looked like. Paul has one of the brothers has a tape of him singing. I might even get to hear his voice, and I feel weird crying over somebody that possibly knew I existed because my mom told him, and he didn't want anything to really do with me. But it's also like it's a relief. Like, I'll know, you know. It's like I think really people who don't have a parent that they're looking for, I think that they would be the only ones that would really understand what I mean by, like, you know, I have a really good life. I just wanted to know. You know, when I did the Ancestry thing, I didn't care if it was all on paper. I would just know, you know. And now I get to meet everybody and see a part of his life and see where he's buried, and meet his kids and his grandkids. And it's gonna be very cool. And anybody who knows me, that I talked about this in high school and everything, it's the answers to a lot of questions that I had, and questions have been answered, and it's pretty awesome. And I owe it all to Ancestry DNA because, like I said, they helped me put all the pieces together to the puzzle. Like, I wouldn't have been able to find anything. All I had was a name, Dave Fulton. That was it. I had nothing else. And I was able to narrow down to grandparents and people who had a kid by that name and just go down that line. And I mean, it's insane. Yeah, so look forward to another video where I will be talking about my trip. And we are leaving first thing in the morning, and we're meeting them tomorrow night for dinner. And we're going to kind of do some stuff the next few days with them. And one of my best friends of 20 years, not too far from there, so she's actually going to get a hotel, and she's staying in the same hotel we are for a couple nights, and which is going to be awesome because this is a huge deal, and to have somebody there that was a part of my past that I spoke with about this stuff, it's going to be kind of cool to see that chapter close. You know, like, I've always been standing behind a door, banging on it, saying, what are the answers, what are the answers, what are the answers, and the door's going to be open, and I'm going to have answers, and then I can finally, you know, come to peace with it all, which I guess I have been at peace with it. I'm not, like, holding grudges or anything crazy. The curiosity of knowing where I come from, especially after having hope, I couldn't imagine not seeing her grow up. I couldn't imagine not being a part of her life or seeing her. And So I always wondered what kind of person he was to be able to do something like that, because my mom told him she was pregnant, and he said, it's impossible, it's not mine. And she never saw him again. So I guess I just wanted to kind of know what kind of person could do that. And it turned out he did it to 3 kids before he even met my mom. So we all have something in common a little bit. They actually met him quite a bit more than I did. I met him 0 times. But yeah, it's cool. I maybe see some pictures. They're trying to find some, and be able to see what he looks like when he's not a teenager, because that's the only one I have a picture of, is when he was young and in the Marine Corps, which is really funny because I married a Marine. So I don't know, it's like that full cycle thing. And then the similarities, which I'll get more into detail in the next video. This is long enough video, I think, for now. But yes, if you're looking for a sibling or you're looking for anybody, I do highly recommend doing these DNA tests. It helped me so much to learn more about my mom's side of the family, and I learned, like, I found family on the other side. So it just from putting all the pieces together and going online and just typing in his name, all this stuff would pop up, which it's a very common name. So if you have a very common name, you might have multiple things you have to do. But yeah, it was kind of a cool thing. And tomorrow I get to meet the siblings. So it's pretty cool. Thanks guys for watching, and stay tuned for part 2 to this, when I show behind the scenes. I'm not going to put a camera in anybody's face or anything crazy. It's more going to be me talking about my experiences and just kind of the journey, I guess, to meeting everybody and meeting a part of my bloodline that I didn't think in my lifetime I'd ever meet. So have a good one, guys.